There is something which is profoundly isolating about standing in your kitchen at midnight, the only light coming from your refrigerator, eating food you don't even want. The house is quiet, everyone's asleep, and there you are, caught in a pattern you can't name, trapped in a cycle you didn't choose. For so many of us, food isn't just fuel. It's comfort. It's it's punishment. It's the thing we turn to when we don't know where what else to turn. And the shame that comes with that, it's suffocating. Hello and welcome back, listeners, to the Mindful Journey podcast. I'm your host, Sana, as always, here. And today's guest knows that feeling intimately. For 30 years, listeners, she lived in what she describes as a relentless loop: dieting, losing control, dieting again, binges that felt automatic, like a switch being flipped. Mornings filled with guilt and the crushing belief that something was fundamentally broken inside her. But then here's what makes her story so important for all of us listeners. She found her way out, not through another diet, not through willpower or restriction, but by finally looking at the why behind the eating, the thoughts, the feelings, the unmet needs that food was trying to fill. And she now coaches women who work hard in the gym, who look strong on the outside, but they feel completely out of control at night. And she's here to talk about what actually changed for her the moment she realized food wasn't the problem and how she finally stopped fighting herself. So, let me tell you, listeners, this conversation is not going to be neat or simple. We are going to sit with some uncomfortable truths. We're going to question some things because healing rarely follows a straight line. It is nonlinear, and the answers aren't always what we expect. So let's dive in and let's welcome our guest, Nadege Saysana, to the Mindful Journey. So, Nadege, welcome to the show, and it's really an honor to have you here with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Sana. It's a pleasure to be here.
And Nadege, with that,
Mm.
Um, well, let's start at the beginning. You said your first binge, it happened at 16, like right after your first diet. You lost weight fast, it scared you, you gained it all back. What what scared you about losing weight? That's not the reaction most people have. Like they'll be very happy that they lost weight, but yeah.
Yes, but I think I realized I was being complimented for looking smaller. And in my mind, it was wait, what? I'm complimented because I'm taking less space in the world? Is that really what I want to be part of? So I think that was really scary. This association with your person, you're a human being, and people actually want you to take less space. I was already very introverted, very quiet. And so I thought, okay, people want me to disappear from the earth. Is that what they want? No way. That's not what I want. I think the survival instinct kicked in and it was just, no, we don't want that. So that's why probably I regained the weight and some. But that's also when it triggered that loop because I didn't feel comfortable being, plump, not being comfortable in my body. Um, that didn't feel good either. So I was stuck in this like no man's land or no happiness land. It's just nothing felt good.
Yeah. And that actually makes sense, Nilesh, because it sounds like the weight loss itself. It felt like you were losing control rather than gaining it. And if the diet scared you, if the like the way people were actually expecting you to feel, which is unfortunately it's kind of sad. Why did you keep going back to dieting? Like for 30 years, you repeated that cycle. Like what made you believe that the next diet will be different?
Yes. Well, I think that it was just what was available around me. You know, if you looked at magazines at the time, and I'm afraid it might be the same today, 40 years later, it's just, oh, come summer, let's diet. New Year's Eve, well, let's make this resolution to lose weight. And so I didn't even question that. If I wanted to change the way I looked, if I wanted to eat differently, I had to look to eat differently. And the only option that I could see around me was change the food that you eat. So change the quality of the food that you eat and change the quantity, change the amount of the food that you eat. So I didn't question that. I thought, okay, everybody says calories in, calories out. Let's do this. Let's change how much I eat and what I eat. There must be good food and bad food. So I was in that mindset. And also, I need to exercise more. I need to exercise harder, more often, and so on. So I didn't question that for 30 years, even though I had so much evidence time and time again that none of it was working for me. In fact, I was feeling exhausted. I was feeling disheartened because I could see that um, when I was successfully dieting, which was less and less often, then I would regain the weight back immediately, and I was feeling bad about myself. Um, and the interval between the successful dieting and the binge eating was getting smaller and smaller too. So instead of finding my way out and getting more comfortable physically in my body, I was actually creating the opposite. And also emotionally speaking, I was being more and more helpless, powerless, really stuck in this pattern. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a painful paradox, like, the very thing that um started the problem, it became the thing that you kept reaching for as a solution. Like, it's like um trying to put out a fire with gasoline, and being genuinely confused, like when it keeps burning. And um, uh, I mean, I think what you are touching on is something, so many people experience, but really name, because it kind of creates that shame, that judgment within them. This idea that, we know something isn't working, but then we keep doing it anyway. Like that hopelessness, because we don't know what else to do. And I think the diet industry, like you mentioned about the magazines, and how even after 40 years, it's kind of still the same. The diet industry thrives on that confusion. It tells us the problem is our lack of discipline, not the system itself. If you are enjoying the mindful journey, take 2 seconds to follow or subscribe wherever you are listening. It helps the show reach more people who need a softer, steadier space to land. And if he can leave a quick review, it seriously make a difference. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
Yes. Yes, so true, so true. Yes, and you're right. I love this analogy of putting gasoline on a fire and being surprised at what's going on. And it made me think of what Einstein said about madness. It's repeating the same thing, the same pattern over and over again, expecting a different result. That's exactly what I was doing. And I know so many people do that too. And but I realized actually that the problem wasn't the food; it wasn't the type of food. There's no actually good food or bad food. Sure, there are some foods that make me feel better than other food, but the way I was using the food was really to cope with what was happening within me. So some people don't use food, this yo-yo dieting cycle, restricting food and then overindulging in food. But some people scroll endlessly. They use screens, they use Netflix, they use smoking. Some people drink, things like that. Even what's seen as a better coping mechanism because productivity is so praised in our societies, but working, overworking, or overspending shopping, those are also coping mechanism. It's just that I didn't know that. So I thought, as you said, that food was the problem, but food was actually just the solution I was using to deal with simply being alive and being a thinking and feeling human being. I thought there was something wrong there with me.
Hmm. That absolutely makes sense, Dish. Um, and you, I mean, most of your binges, I mean, you mentioned that it happened at night when the house was quiet. I can actually make a sense of it because that is something similar to what I had experienced. Like, kids in bed, you alone in the kitchen. Um, it's not about the food as you mentioned. Like it's that specific moment of loneliness that nobody's watching me, nobody's judging me. Um, what do you think you were actually hungry for, looking for in those moments?
Yeah, such a good question. So many things. Um, I was hungry for relaxation. At the end of the day, okay, the kids are in bed, my work is done, more or less. So yeah, I can finally relax. And so how can I relax knowing that my world that becomes so small is just either restricting or overeating. So let's turn to food because we know that um, food is a way to celebrate. It's also part of so many cultures, which is fine. So let's celebrate the end of the day. Let's relax. Let's reward myself also for the hard work done by eating. So I was hungry for that sense of, that's it. It's the end of the day. But I think I was also hungry for comfort, you know, um, because even though I wanted to celebrate the end of the day and checking boxes, basically, I also was still feeling stressed and overwhelmed because I was still thinking about what was left to do. Either this day, I still need to do this and that, but also the next day, or there was also a sense of disappointment or frustration because of all the things I wanted to do on that day, but I didn't get to do them, or I did them, but I was not pleased with me. So there was still a sense of, okay, I need comfort from all the negative thinking that's still going on in my head about everything that I wanted to achieve and I didn't. So, and as you said, it was a perfect moment where there was the opportunity. The house was quiet. I was finally alone with myself. I could finally take care of myself instead of taking care of all my students when I used to be an English teacher or my kids. Just, finally, I've got this time for me. So it was a mixture of all this. I was hungry for so many different emotions. And I now realize it's okay, but I just don't always need to turn to food. I can enjoy the food now, but without attaching it to so many responsibilities, so many um, tasks. Um, I no longer need to, have so many jobs for food. Now I can just dissociate, disconnect what I want to feel, like rewarded, acknowledged, etc., and the pleasure of just simply having food. It doesn't have to be all, mumbled together.
Mm. I think many of our listeners, and especially um, not generalizing everything, but especially women, who have a lot on their plate to handle, they'll definitely connect with this because more than the food, I mean, there can be other ways, like you mentioned about shopping, then maybe sometimes intense self-care, or maybe something else which can be a way to um coming back to yourself, or maybe just doing something that you really feel relaxing, rewarding. The feelings that you mentioned there, like I'm just myself, nobody's watching me, nobody's looking for me, nobody's asking for me, I'm just in this quiet space to myself. So I think it the brain, I mean, I don't know, but it just happens that it feels really like, satisfying. And that kind of becomes addictive.
Yes. I agree. I agree. Because the thing is that when we keep repeating the same loop and we feel good, if only for a split second, yes, indeed, it feels addictive. The brain starts expecting that. And my clients tell me, well, food is the only thing I look forward to when I come home because the kids jump on me. And so I'm really looking forward to having that quiet space to myself, having the pleasure of the popcorn or the cookies or whatever. And it's true. And the more we repeat a pattern, the more, yes, we keep this. It's like when it's a brand new forest and is been in this forest, of course, the path is brand new. So you are the explorer. But the more you go through that path, the the easier it is for you to walk through that path because the bushes are not as as present there. Um, and so it's exactly the same, except that it's in your brain. It's just repeating the same pattern keeps repeating the same pattern easier and easier. It makes it easier and easier. So, but that's how we learn things. The brain is really good at learning things. And I guess that if you're like me, when you brush your teeth, you don't think exactly at each precise gesture move that you're making. So it's a good thing that we don't have to think about overthink about everything that we're doing currently. The brain is very good learner. So if you're stuck in this pattern, it's actually very good because it means that your brain is working. And it means also that we can change this pattern. If we go back and think about what we learned since we were a baby, well, there's so many things that we learned. Some we kept while brushing our teeth, hopefully, but some we dropped. So it's a good sign. It means that we can learn different patterns. We can learn to go through a different path in the forest if we want to. And it's possible. That's what I really want people to know. It is possible.
It is. It is. And Nilesh, moving on, I I would like to push back on something a little bit here. Turning point. It came from podcasts, Rennie Stephens teaching you to be kind to yourself. Brooke Castle explaining that eating comes from feelings come from thoughts. And yes, it is beautiful because it kind of establishes a connection here. Like it gives clarity. But then here's my question, like, do you think that message that thoughts create feelings and feelings drive behavior, it can sometimes let us off the hook too easily? Like, I mean, we just reframe our thoughts and then everything's fixable.
Mm. Yeah, and by you mean if we could use it like an excuse? Is that what you mean?
Kind of, bypassing that. Okay, let me change what I'm thinking, and then automatically everything will be fixed.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. Except that it's not magic, and so sometimes it requires more than just it's not an overnight shift because there are so many things we think and we're not even aware of it. Apparently, scientists said we have something along the lines of 60,000 thoughts a day. So that's a lot. That's a lot to change. But I think for me, what's really fantastic about that our thoughts create our feelings and drive our actions is that then I'm in charge. Then I have the power to change the way I behave. Because beforehand, I felt completely powerless, completely stuck, helpless. I thought this binging behavior was happening to me because it was nighttime. That's it. So, well, there's no way I can change nighttime, unfortunately. Um, so I thought, okay, I can try as much as I want to, but there's no way I can change my behavior. So it was really freeing for me to realize that no, I have some power there. Um, and thinking that everything's fixable was also such a huge relief because then I get to choose how I live my life right now, but also later. I get to decide what patterns I want to keep, but also which ones I want to tweak. And also, I don't have to change everything. For instance, I still eat to this day my favorite chocolate because I want to, because I'm noticing I get pleasure from it in the short term, really enjoying it. In the long term, I don't overdo it because I really sit with my body and I realize, okay, night's a bit too much. I'm not feeling good anymore. Let's stop here. 'Cause before, I was stuck in this pattern of, okay, the chocolate is here. Let me finish the bar. Now it's possible. So I don't know if it makes sense. Let me know if this is what you wanted me to answer.
No, I mean, I don't think that there is a very fixed answer here, because once again, we are talking about humans here, and everybody has a different like operating system, a different way of looking at the world, looking at things, uh, perceiving things and situations, and I think uh, m- like it's about not oversimplifying healing. Like, people would say that, oh, this all keeps on happening, just forget everything and move on. I mean, it cannot be applicable for on everyone. Like, it simply cannot just mean that you need to change your thoughts and then everything fall into place. It may work for me, but it may not work for you. But then, life is messy, trauma is real, um, then there is systemic issues, they are real. And then what you mentioned about that example of your favorite chocolate, I think we had discussed this before also in our previous podcast on the mindful living. And I think I also sometimes um like depends. It's not triggered by that I'm super stressed or I'm super happy, that's why. But it's just that, okay, I want to eat my favorite chocolate. I'll enjoy it today. Maybe after 2 3 days I'll think about it. But then it doesn't mean that I have to punish myself, or I need to feel very special that I'm getting to eat my chocolate. Yes, I'm thankful that I'm getting to eat my chocolate, but then there is not the inner critique, but the inner voice that is saying, okay, you get to have your chocolate. Just make sure that you do not overindulge in that.
Yes. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I completely agree with what you were saying. We don't want to oversimplify thing. It's not um because yes, you're right. There's so many different backgrounds to our patterns, so many as many as different human beings, obviously. And I love what you said, because it's true that I used to be so much in my head that finding this, thought creates your feeling, and that's what drives your action, felt good because I could understand it intellectually. But some people, I have many friends who, instead of being first in their head, are first in their body. It's just a different way to experience life, and there's no right or wrong way. But it's true that then there are different ways for them to approach any issue, anything in life. And they can start with feeling the sensations in their body, feeling the emotions in their body. And I think it's wonderful that there are so many different approaches to like coaching, but also therapy, hypnosis, handling techniques, that there is a solution for everyone, I believe. I really want to believe that. But it just may start with a different approach, a different entry point. And it's perfectly fine. I love that too. Yes. Yeah. And I love what you were saying, that we can enjoy food, and it can also not be a means to punish ourselves, because as you said earlier on, yes, we can also turn to food to punish ourselves, because we know what's happening. When we overeat, we feel bad. We feel bad immediately in our body. It's this bloated, this stuff, this sensation that's not pleasant. Nobody wants to feel that, in their bodies, I believe. And then there's the second layer that we add, the guilt, the regret, the bullying ourselves, basically. So yeah, we can also drop that pattern, and we don't have to mistreat ourselves because we ate this or that, or this amount of that. And it's also something that we can retrain our brain to think about and to feel about. It's just, yeah, we can drop the guilt and we can drop the shame, because that's also one option. We don't have to do that anymore.
Absolutely right. And Nadesh, you said that you knew when you knew you had healed when COVID hit and everyone rushed to buy food, but you didn't. And this is a powerful marker. But then Was there a part of you that felt scared by that shift? Like, if food had been your coping mechanism for 30 years, what did you do with all that space when it was gone?
Oh, so that's such a good question because indeed, yes, I had been obsessed with food and dieting and all the thoughts and feelings around it for so many years that I was thinking, okay, now what? And also, now what? What do I fill my days and my brain with? But also, who am I now? If I'm no longer a binge eater, if I'm no longer someone who copes um, with whatever is in our life with food, then who am I? And it's true that it was an identity shift. The good thing is that just like me learning how to stop binge eating, it was not an overnight shift. It was not, like an earthquake or no. It happened slowly, um, slowly, little by little. So I had the time to find new hobbies, new things to do in my life, and also to see how I wanted to change my identity. And one thing that always s- um, s- strikes me is, when so I like lifting weights. I like using my dumbbells, exercising. I really like that. And lots of people, lots of women who come to me because they're interested in my journey and learning also to lift weights, which is one hobby that I now fill my life with. They come to me and they say, "Oh, I really like what you're doing, but I'm afraid of being dating bulky. I'm afraid or building big muscles." And I like to tell them, well, the good news is that it's not going to happen overnight. It's like if you're learning to write, you're not going to be a famous novelist that has to go on tours to sign their books immediately. You can stop at any time. If you think that you look fine the way you are because you build your muscle and that's okay for you, you can maintain that body. It's the same with the identity. You can maintain the identity you want. You don't have to change everything overnight. You get to decide. And I think it's very reassuring to think that you have the power, especially with, getting bulky. I think that us women, we will need to get on steroids or things like that to really change our body and to become, very bulky, very muscular. So that's also good to know that it's something that you can be in charge of. You can be in the driver's seat or instead of thinking, okay, now I've started using a dumbbell and exercising once a week at the gym that this is it. It's like a slippery slope, and I can only end up being bulky. It's not true. It's not true. But it's good to know that our brain is using those worst case scenario as prediction as if it was true. But it's good to know too that we can press pause at any point, and we can also reassure ourselves that yes, my brain's presenting me this dramatic story. It was a catastrophe, dramatic action movie, but it's still a story. It's a story that I can believe, also distance myself from, and go back to the fact. All I'm doing is exercising once a week. That's it. Instead of going to the worst immediately.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think it's a very, very common and valid misconception, especially around women. My mother, when I actually started gymming, and I also used like I love not very heavy dumbbells, but at least like something which I can lift, but then it's putting pressure on my muscles, but then it's not too heavy. And I really found kind of like I felt that strength, that liberation within me when I started lifting weights. But my mother, she used to tell me that no, you'll get bulky, you'll look like those, bulky muscular men. Don't do like that. Women don't look good in that. But then I actually saw the results over months, over years, that it's it's going to make you more uh, like your joints, and then give you more strength, giving more agility as well. not just restricted to lifting weights, but in terms of, the movement part, from a perspective of movement, I'm saying that it's going to give you that strength. Like for women, it's very common that people say, as we age, we have joint pains, and it's natural, it keeps on happening, so just move on with it. But I don't think that's, that it has to be normalized in a way that there is no cure or there is no solution for that.
Yes, I so agree with you. Yes. And my mom's the same. When she has the same story. So the she's in her 70s, and the problem is that she's starting to have osteoporosis, which means that her bones, her muscles are atrophying. And of course, we know that for women, I think it starts when we're as early as or in our 30s that we start losing muscle. And the problem is that, from what I understand, if you don't have as much muscle mass as you used to or as you could, then the bones are not protected as much. And
Mm.
when we get older, and the problem is that it's easy to break our hips when falling if we're that fragile. But when I suggested to my mom that she could start, lifting weight, there are role models, women in their 70s who started lifting weight and felt better for it. And but my mom laughed it off, thinking exactly what you said, that no, this is not for women. And I think it's a bit sad, but that's the way it is. Um, yeah, I agree with you. It doesn't have to be this way now because it has been. We don't have to think the same stories as our mums believed, because now we have scientific evidence that it was just a story, and actually the opposite is true. Gaining muscle, retaining muscle mass over the years may be extremely beneficial for us women. So why not go for it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, Nadej, before we wrap up, it's a ritual. Like if our listeners they would like to connect with you, like because you coach women, who work hard in the gym, but then they also feel out of control in the kitchen. You teach them skills. If they would like to start, maybe with one simple step today, which is doable, which may not need, what people commonly, perceive that it needs a lot of time, it needs a lot of resources. Um, and I think that's kind of a pushback when it comes to coaching or mentoring, that it needs a lot of time and resources. If a simple step they can start with, what would it be?
I love that. Yes, and you're right. You're right. There's this conception, which is partly true. Of course, if you want to go deep on something, it takes some time. It's true. But the one thing that I've learned recently, because I've been recently certified as a Havening practitioner, Havening techniques practitioner, it's this super simple thing to do, which will calm your brain. Because very often we use food or scrolling or shopping or whatever as a coping mechanism because we're not feeling good. And so there could be something extremely easy for you to do wherever you are, whenever you are, which is simply rubbing your hands. And you can do that, nobody's going to look at you weird if you just rub your hands. You can pretend that you're being cold, but it's just a thing that you do. But when we do that, we are actually using the sense of touch, obviously. And I don't know about you, but I knew that babies need touch a lot to feel secure. That's one of their main means of communications. But what I didn't know is that for us grown-ups, it's the same too. We need the sense of touch. We need to touch um, another human being or ourselves so that we feel that sense of peace. And it actually generates, when you do that, you simply rub your hands against each other, it creates those delta waves in the brain that make you feel more peaceful. And it's quite remarkable because you can do it for 1 minute, and that can be enough to calm your brain down. It's really like, those snow globes that you shake. So it snows everywhere. And that's sometimes how I feel when I'm stressed, when I'm overwhelmed, when I'm frustrated. I feel like a shaken snow globe. But when I do that, simply rubbing my hands in front of me, or side to side, whichever way you like, it calms my brain down just like the snow settles in the snow globe. And I love that because it's quick, it's fast, it's extremely efficient. And so that's what I could advise your audience to do whenever they feel they're getting a bit, you know, um, over, what should I say? Yeah, they notice they're becoming emotional. They could simply do that. They don't have to wait for the moment when it's hard not to reach for the food. They could do that on a regular basis. I know that ever since COVID, I tend to wash my hands a lot. And I could use that time, that could be if you do something a lot and you notice you do it throughout the day regularly, you could use that time to also do that. Just rubbing your hands together a little bit and notice the calm that it gives your brain.
Hmm. Yeah, that's easy. It's like heartwarming and simple, and I think it can be such a good, sweet step to begin with, especially when um, we feel that oh my goodness, I don't have the time or resources to do deep mindset work. So thank you for sharing that, Nadish. And of course, if listeners for more guidance on this, for exploring the work that you are doing, if they would like to reach out to you, connect with you, what will be the easiest way?
Yes, thank you so much for asking. Well, the best place for you to find me is on my website, which is called Milo, Milo, bingefix.com, milobingefix.com. And this is where you'll see the women I help, how I work, and what life looks like when you stop binge eating. And it's so good. And well, if you like this conversation, I'm happy to invite you to my free masterclass, which is called One Bite Doesn't Have to Turn into the Whole Bag, or How to Go to Bed Without Regret. And you can simply sign up for it at milobingefix.com/masterclass, and I'd be happy to see you there.
That's brilliant. And listeners, I'll make sure that all the links are there in the show notes. So find them attached along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. And if you are listening to this and if you have ever felt trapped in your kitchen at night, I hope you heard something today that made you feel a little less alone, because the truth is emotional eating isn't about weakness. It is not about lack of discipline or broken willpower. It's about being human in a world that doesn't always gives us the tools to process what we are feeling. And I think it's safe to say that uh, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong. You are not broken. You are coping the best way you know how with the tools you have. And maybe, just maybe, there are other tools, there are other channels out there waiting for you when you are ready. So, thank you so much, listeners, for tuning into this episode. And Nadesh, thank you so much for being so open, candid, and helping us with some really, really practical insights.
Thank you so much for having me. It was delightful to see you again.
Same here, absolutely. And listeners, thank you so much once again. And until next time, this is the Mindful Journey. I am Sana. Take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you.